Stealer Brainrot had a duping issue involving the rarest Brainrot in the game, the OG Strawberry Elephant. And for a short window of time, multiple copies of something that was supposed to be extremely rare were circulating through the economy. Players started noticing it almost immediately. Screenshots started spreading. Trades started getting weird. And the value of one of the most important items in the game was suddenly being questioned. Since then, the devs have confirmed the dupe, patched it, and deleted every duplicated Brainrot. So this video is here to break down what actually happened, how people reacted, and why this situation mattered as much as it did. This wasn't just another rumor or visual bug. The reason this situation escalated so fast is because of what was involved. The strawberry elephant isn't just rare, it's the ceiling of the economy. People don't casually own one. People don't casually trade one. Entire inventories get built around the idea of eventually getting it. So the moment multiple copies appeared in places they shouldn't have, the reaction wasn't curiosity. It was alarm. What surprised a lot of people was the speed. Within hours, players were already changing how they traded. Values that had been stable for months were suddenly being debated. Middlemen started getting flooded, and people felt like they had to make decisions immediately without waiting for confirmation. And once that mindset sets in, rational thinking usually disappears. Duping isn't dangerous because of the item itself. It's dangerous because it introduces uncertainty. Once players don't know what's real, trust collapses. Trades slow down, people stop taking risks, and even legitimate items start feeling unsafe. At that point, the economy doesn't crash, it freezes, and a frozen economy is far worse than a temporary spike or dip. During that initial window, reactions were all over the place. Some players stopped trading entirely, some players rushed trades, some players tried to lock in value as fast as possible, regardless of cost. And that's usually where the most damage happens, not from the exploit itself, but from how people respond to it. I've got a friend who works as a middleman, and during this period, he was getting overwhelmed with trade requests. Players were offering high mutated dragon cannellonis, sometimes multiple. Some were even overpaying the middleman fee just to get the trade done faster. And for the people who went through with those trades, the outcome was rough. The duplicated elephants were deleted. The dragons were already gone. And suddenly, they were left with nothing. That's what panic trading does. It punishes speed and rewards patience. And I don't think that came from stupidity. It came from fear. Scarcity changes how people think. The moment an item feels like it might disappear, logic takes a back seat. Fair value stops mattering. Long-term thinking disappears, and people start chasing the item instead of protecting their inventory. After my first video went live, I spoke directly with Sammy, the owner of the game, not to accuse anyone and not to argue, just to understand what was actually happening. And what I was told lined up with what later became public. The issue had already been detected, duplicated items were being tracked, and the plan was always to remove them once everything was verified. That's why I didn't immediately rush out another video. Speculation helps nobody when confirmation is coming. Not long after, Sammy publicly confirmed the dupe. It was patched. Duplicated Brainrots were deleted, servers were migrated, and systems like existence tracking were discussed as future safeguards. And honestly, that's the best possible outcome for a situation like this. Fast detection, transparency, and cleanup. Something that often gets overlooked is how situations like this affect the community itself. During that window, everything felt tense. Trades weren't friendly anymore. People were suspicious. Even legitimate players started second-guessing each other. Once every rare item comes with a question mark, the game stops feeling social and starts feeling stressful. Restoring trust matters just as much as deleting dupes. The good news is that this situation was contained. Duplicated items were removed. Legitimate items stayed legitimate. And the systems being discussed going forward make repeat scenarios less likely. Rarity only works if it's protected, and this situation showed that protection is possible. I could have stretched this into multiple speculation videos. I could have kept escalating the situation for content, but long-term, that doesn't help anyone. Accuracy matters more than speed. Credibility matters more than clicks. If something's broken, I'll talk about it. And if it gets fixed, I think it's just as important to say that too. At the end of the day, steal a Brainrot is still a game. But for a lot of people, it's also time, effort, and value. So moments like this matter. Not because they're dramatic, but because they test systems, communication, and trust. This situation could have gone a lot worse, but it didn't, and that's worth acknowledging. Something else worth talking about is what this situation means for rare items going forward. Because moments like this don't just disappear once they're fixed. They change how people think. Players are going to be more cautious. Middlemen are going to be more selective. And rare brainrots are going to be looked at a lot more critically than before. That's not necessarily a bad thing. A healthier economy isn't one where people trade non-stop. It's one where people actually trust what they're trading for. And situations like this usually separate hype value from real value very quickly. There's also a quieter lesson here that most people don't really think about in the moment. In fast-moving games like this, the biggest losses almost never come from the exploit itself. They come from reactions to it. Once people hear the word dupe, everything speeds up. Suddenly nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to be the last person holding something that might drop in value. So people start making decisions based on fear instead of information. And that's usually where things go wrong. The people who waited didn't lose anything. They didn't panic. They didn't rush trades. They didn't gamble their inventory on a rumor. The people who rushed, on the other hand, paid the price. Trades got locked in. Value got handed away. And when the situation settled, there was no undo button. That pattern shows up over and over again in every game built around trading and scarcity. It doesn't matter if it's brainrots, pets, skins, or anything else. The outcome is almost always the same. Patience almost always wins. Not because it's exciting, not because it feels good in the moment, but because it keeps you from making decisions you can't take back once the dust settles. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. The situation happened, it got handled, and there are definitely lessons to take away from it. If you've got thoughts on how everything went down, feel free to leave them in the comments. Just keep it respectful, keep it honest, and if you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.